snacking. There is no need for snacking. I don't know how this concept that you're gonna eat every 3 to 4 hours, that's terrible. Now, if you're a brittle diabetic or if you're a marathon runner for while you're running, that's understandable, eat at every 3 to 4 hours. But for all human beings, eat every 3 to 4 hours, that's a terrible idea. Just because something has a great labels doesn't mean it's good for us. McDonald's ice cream doesn't even melt because it may not be milk in there. And if you see some food with lots of claims, like on a package that it's fortified with vitamins and this and that, try to avoid it because it's not telling you what other junk it has. Many food items has a more fruit on the box than actual content, like it's less than 2% dried grapes. That is way behind salt, but on the front it's grapes. So like my wife asked me, what muffin do you want? Do you want blueberry muffin or lemon muffin? And I said, oh, give me blueberry muffin. Like there is the word blueberry in it, right? And the companies are smart. They come up with the amazing marketing that it's a skinny popcorn or lean cuisine, right? Like what's the data to prove that it actually makes any difference? I won't tell you the story of speedballing, but soda is essentially type of speedballing. Like you get a flavor and then you get a jolt of tons of sugar that is very unnatural. So your brain craves that flavor again and again because that's what you were conditioned that, oh, every time I have this flavor, I get tons of sugar. And you say, I don't need to worry about soda because I don't drink soda. I drink fruit juices. Essentially the same thing, yeah. Or I don't need to worry about soda because I drink diet soda. Well, aspartame and all of the sugar substitutes actually have shown to worsen cognitive issues as well. But then I have people come and say that I don't need to worry about diet soda because I don't drink diet soda. Well, we still eat all the things which has quote unquote artificial sweeteners in it, such as our low-fat yogurt or morning cereals or our protein bars or low-calorie ice cream. If you really get excited about reading this, really read this book by Dr. Chris Van Tulleken. It's Ultra-Processed People. I think it's a very good book. So I spent too much amount of time talking about who made the food. I actually have similar amount of material for other things because I spent almost a month in my program teaching people that what each thing means and how do we actually make it happen. So today I won't talk about why we eat. So we have to be very careful. We are not eating out of boredom or when we are sad. We are eating because we want the nourishment. Unfortunately, our society, we have created sugar as a reward, right? Like you have a birthday, you have to have a cake. You go to a doctor's office and you get a shot, you get a candy for kids. That's terrible. One thing I wanted to mention about when we eat. So, fasting is very important. Every single religion that I know of has some kind of fasting as a part of it. There was a really good article in New England Journal by Dr. Madsen. So if you have to remember somebody's name, consider Dr. Madsen's book. He has a whole book on intermittent fasting. Without going into details, when we are not getting food directly, our body uses it up what was stored. And stored is not only fat, stored is also the broken down protein or abnormally made proteins and contents in your lysosome and other vesicles and stuff like that. So when you actually go hungry, it's actually beneficial for your brain up to a certain extent. Now, from this thought process came out the ketogenic diet, that if you eat ketogenic diet, it's good for your brain. And it has a partial truth that yes, ketones are good for you, but ketogenic diet is not the way to make your ketones. Probably fasting is much safer, healthier way to make ketones just by your natural body rather than eat tons of ultra-processed food to go for ketogenic diet. This is another good book called Circadian Code that talks about that what time you eat food has a huge impact. Like this, as I mentioned earlier, this is the same amount of food eaten at a different times of the day has a very different sugar spike. So what I personally do, I'm not saying you should do it, what I personally do, I try to eat between 12 to 6. So I eat at 12 o'clock and I'm done eating at 6 o'clock. Not always. I'm not a party pooper. If I go to a party and if everybody's eating late, I eat late and do all the bad things. But on average, like 80 to 90% of the time, I try to stick to my schedule. Snacking, there is no need for snacking. I don't know how this concept that you're gonna eat every 3 to 4 hours, that's terrible. Now, if you're a brittle diabetic or if you're a marathon runner for while you're running, that's understandable, eat at every 3 to 4 hours. But for all human beings, eat every 3 to 4 hours, that's a terrible idea. Because we have cycles as a brain, like a circadian cycles. Our gut has a circadian cycle, our liver has a circadian cycle. We have actually found individual genes at a cellular level that has a circadian cycle. The guy and the girl who discovered it actually got a Nobel Prize for it. So another very important thing is mindful eating. Mindfulness is very important when we eat. It's not about what you eat, it's about what you digest and what you absorb. You can be eating the healthiest thing, but you are running, your intestine and your gut is not in its parasympathetic phase that is ready to rest and digest and absorb. If you are running when you are eating, like running between patient to patient, your body is just not absorbing all the right things. And I have data for it, but I don't think we have time. So look into this mindful eating. There are lots of good apps. So I use Insight Timer. That's obviously a free app, and it when I'm eating, most of the time, not always, I try to listen to it to do the mindful eating. I do wanna talk a little bit about chewing. So you do wanna chew at least 20 to 25 minutes. So there was a great saying that you wanna chew your food so much that it becomes liquid, and you wanna drink your liquid so slow that's almost like a food. I do wanna talk a little bit about what to eat. So there was a really good study by Dr. Dean Ornish. It's in a randomized control trial on Alzheimer's that he used whole food plant-based diet, and it was a smaller study. Like it was not as powered, but he was still at the very less number of participants, around 100 or so. He's able to show the difference. There was another study in American Journal of Clinical Nutrition that compared to simple carbohydrates, if you are eating good meat, every 5% calorie that came from animal protein, there was 11% reduction in subjective cognitive decline. But if those 5% of calories came from plant protein, the reduction was even 26%. So, but I don't like this kind of studies where they try to break down the food into protein and carbohydrate and fat without saying that what portion was ultra processed and what portion was not. So, and you say, why don't we do the studies where people eat just this whole food plant-based diet and compared to somebody else? But the problem is, then it becomes a biased population, because people who do so good in nutrition, they're also exercising at the same time and doing mindfulness and stuff like that. So it becomes really hard to do those kinds of studies. And this is not a new information, right? In 1993, there was an Adventist health study. We also know that people even who has bad genes, if they reduce their saturated fat by lowering and lower their cholesterol, they have benefits. And as you may know, most saturated fat comes from animal sources. Now, there are plant sources of saturated fat, such as coconut oil and palm oil, but most of the plant sources of saturated fat is hydrogenated and ultra processed. So I would say if you need to use oil, I will just go with extra virgin olive oil. I cannot have a neurology nutrition talk without mentioning Dr. Martha Morris's Mind diet. But if you go to Rush University's website, even they now recommend a whole food plant-based diet. And I do want to just show this one or two pictures of chicken. Like most people, when they think that they are eating chicken, they think that they are eating this chicken. But we are not eating this chicken. So this is chicken at 2 months. This is a broiler chicken that most of us are eating. So this is a whole food plant-based plate, and I would, instead of just going from study to study to study, I wanna give some time for questions and answers. So what I tell people to do, avoid the saturated fat as much as possible. It's better to have your vitamins and micronutrients from food and not supplements. People ask me about supplements all the time. So my standard answer is, you cannot put the power of Mother Nature in a pill, right? It was very funny. Somebody told me that they are taking veggie pills. I think, what the heck? Just eat the vegetables, right? Like, why do you need to eat veggie pills? So I did not mention the water. It's very important to drink 60 to 70 ounces of water. I usually have 2 water bottles with me, and I fill them up twice. So I fill them up in the morning and I fill them up in the afternoon, because water is the best way to improve your brain capacity in a very short period of time. Many of you have seen this. Dementia people, they get a little bit dehydrated and then they decompensate. I did mention a little bit about alcohol, but no amount of alcohol is found to be good for our brain, right? Forget about heart. I know some people will try to argue with me that it may be a little bit good, drinking a little bit may be good for your heart, which all those studies has been debunked, because there is a sick quitter effect, right? Like if you already have liver cirrhosis and if you quit drinking, and if you get classified as a person non-drinker, but if you forget that, tell me a study where it shows that the alcohol is good for the brain or sleep, right? Alcohol significantly disrupts your sleep. It does not put you to the sleep, it knocks you out, and it affects something called lymphatic system. So this is fascinating. If somebody wants to read something new in neurology, lymphatic system is a new system we have found that clears out this beta amyloid and stuff like that from our brain, and you disrupt that in your sleep if you have alcohol on board, and there is alcohol and cancer and stuff like that. I always say devil is into details. I talk about coffee. It's probably not the coffee, what you put in your coffee. I tell people to eat at least 1 fistful of nuts every day. The key is to chew well. And I also make sure that I eat 1 bowl of berries every day. I usually have polls where you ask, when was the last time you had a berry, right? Like in either yesterday, 3 days, or 7 days, and things like that. The same way as turmeric and ginger, it's better to eat the root, not the pill. And it's important to eat fermented food, such as sauerkraut, kombucha, kefir, kimchi, whole fat yogurt, and stuff like that. That's really good for your gut microbiome. I didn't go down into gut microbiome, but I think I should stop. But I have to tell you about this thing. If you really want to do one thing, look into this free course, Food as Medicine course, from American College of Lifestyle Medicine. It's worth doing, and I'll tell you some of the proverbs that my grandmother used to say. Food is the best medicine. Eat your food like medicine. Eat your food like medicine, or you will be eating medicine like food. If you can put the food up on the shelf for more than 3 to 4 days, and if it won't go bad, don't eat it. If bugs are not willing to eat it, why would you eat it? Pray before you eat. It's in the sense of mindful eating and chewing. So you chew so much that your food becomes a liquid. And I started out with this summary, and I have like 5 minutes. So I will stop now and I'll be happy to answer any questions.